Aye.
Good afternoon. It's February 9th, 2026. It is 4:02 in the afternoon, and I am Damian Johnston. I am pleased to welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Academic Affairs Committee of the Board of School Directors in Springfield Township. Our virtual meeting today is a busy one with a full agenda to take a look at a proposal from the middle school, including some course and schedule recommendations in our special areas. The high school team is here to talk about our program presentations, both our program of studies and 2 additional course requests to get started. I will have an opportunity along with Dr. Dennis to share 3 components of our comprehensive planning, which we'll talk more about in a second. And of course, in the event it should occur, we'll take some public comment at the end. And with that, I want to get started by welcoming back our middle school team who has made a regular appearance here to Academic Affairs. We have found it most successful to sort of share information with the public and with the board in small increments as we've proceeded along, just to make sure we're bringing people along with us. And today, Dr. Mangano and Ms. Brady are back to talk particularly around special area offerings for the coming year. And with no undue waiting, Dr. Mangano and Mrs. Brady, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can let me know when to advance the slides.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for having us here this afternoon. It's only 4 o'clock. We're going to do a little bit of a review since I feel like we've been regulars on the show since last year, since there's so many wonderful things happening in our building, as I've said repeatedly, inside and out. So for our agenda items today, in terms of our slides, we're going to talk a little bit of a recap of our story and kind of where we've been and where we're headed, with a specific focus, as Dr. Johnston mentioned, on a little bit on our specials offerings, special area classes, that is, and what's around there in terms of philosophy and structure. We're going to talk a little bit about and show you what those new offerings are, and then talk again at the end about ensembles and some changes in those areas. Next slide, please. On this slide in particular, you're going to see a very nice culmination of a timeline of events of where we've been and where we're headed. So if I go all the way back to, which was just last year, my first year, we did a lot of listening as a leader and a lot of learning in terms of who the staff is and what we kind of felt was needed at that time. And again, I think always, how do we grow and make things better for kids? That's really what we're in the business for. So we did a lot of gathering feedback from students and families and staff. We did a lot of listening, and then we did some planning together. In the fall, we came together and we did some proposals in terms of what kind of things we would do in terms of teaming and what a new schedule could look like. Mind you, scheduling has been a topic of conversation for quite some time, long before I got here. In January of 2026, we did a program update and we did our new curriculum guide. In February, well, that was just this past January, my fault. And in February, we're coming to you today to talk a little bit more about specials in particular and the specific classes that we're bringing forward for our special areas. We'll be back in March to talk about our curriculum guide. I know the high school's doing theirs tonight. And in April, we're going to be doing the beginnings of talking with, and once we get through tonight, even talking with families about where we are in this process, having student meetings, and also we have some parent meetings scheduled as well. Next slide, please. All right, here is a great example of a visual with some language that talks very, very specific about what our special area structure looks like. So in simple format, 4 marking periods. The beauty of this for next year is day 1 and a day 2 schedule. So which, if you're in the middle school now, it gets very confusing. What day is it? Is it an A day? Is it a B day? Is it a day 1, a day 4, a day whatever? It's a question that comes up all the time. So we want to really simplify that for kids with this simple chart you see on here with the 4 marking periods. These placeholders in there where it says PE, Life Online, or Success Lab, they're just samples of what a schedule could look like, just to give an example. And then as you see on the bottom, class length for every period in the building is 67 minutes. So we're going from 80 to 67 for every class period, and there are 22 classes for each marking period. And next slide, please.
Dr. Mangano, I just want to be clear, you have 22 classes in the specials area, not in the course.
Yes, yes, thank you.
So what I'm going to try to do is make this as simple as possible. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. I want to lay out our specials plan for over the next 3 years. I want to show you kind of where we are today and where we're going and some decisions that led us to where we're going to be next year. So what you're looking at right now is a grade level overview for our current students. These are the courses, the specials courses that students could be taking. What I want to show you is what is being removed from this selection and to make room for more better and fun things for next year. So the first thing you'll see that's going to be removed is that line of humanities, civics, and project history. The main reason that these are being removed from the specials is because they're going to actually be integrated into our social studies curriculum because our social studies is gaining minutes. They're now going to be meeting daily for 67 minutes right now. They only meet every other day for 80 minutes. So these courses really aren't disappearing in any way. They're just kind of bringing that in to the regular core curriculum every day. The next thing that you'll see is that what we brought up our last academic affairs, is that the level one language is now moved to the high school so that our students can start their level one learning there and get credit for it. And you'll see underneath those humanities, civics, and project histories, this extension special. That was new for this year. And the main reason we put in that extension special as a placeholder for this year is that we wanted to really take that time that Dr. Mangano was talking about, listening to our students and our teachers and to our families to see what could be potentially phenomenal specials that we could add in that would really benefit our students through their middle school career here. We weren't 100% sure where we were landing on the finalized schedule at that time. So this extension special was a great way to get our students some extra experiences and some specials that they love. But now we are ready to bring on these new specials and kind of introduce what they're going to be next. I have three other areas that I want you to keep an eye on as I present these next couple slides. The first one is health and PE in sixth grade and PE in eighth grade. We're just making a few adjustments that I want you to keep an eye on based upon things that we've heard and some changes that the district has made that we hope will be beneficial for students. And then the last thing I want you to keep an eye on, and you have to really keep this in the back of your mind because it's going to be the last thing that we talk about, which is specifically ensembles in sixth grade. Right now, ensembles is embedded into our sixth, seventh, and eighth grade specials, but I want you to keep an eye on what we're going to do with ensembles in sixth grade, but that's going to come a little bit later on. So for next year, when you're focusing on our health and PE for sixth grade, in our elementary school curriculum, we've really beefed up our health curriculum. And what we've heard from students and families and is how important physical activity is for our kids, especially in that transition from elementary to middle school. So the adjustment that we're going to make for next year for sixth grade is that we're going to have 2 marking periods of PE. It's similar to what they have now, kind of like an indoor PE and an outdoor PE, but they're going to have they only have that for 40 minutes now. They're going to have that for 67 minutes next year. And we feel like that's really important and really developmentally appropriate for the sixth graders. And what we'll notice and what I hear a lot from our students in eighth grade is that PE might not necessarily be meeting their needs. Our students have some who are super excited and can't wait to go and are excited to play in basketball and team sports. Others that might not really be their forte. So we wanted to give them options of what could be possible for them as eighth graders as they really develop their sense of self. So we're going to have more of an individual fitness option for some of our students and a team sports option for some of our students. Our students will have the opportunity to take both if they choose. But if one of them is, they like a little bit more than the other, there's actually going to be a lot more choice embedded for our eighth graders as we go into the 26-27 school year. Dr. Johnson, you mind hitting next? Sorry, a lot of animation. Next again. So that is some adjustments that we made. So what's really exciting is for our new courses, we were listening to our families, our students. I had the pleasure to sit with Dr. Lutz in our equity action audit and hear a lot from our different groups of people. And that really informed a lot of our decision making, of a lot of our students' opinions and what would be beneficial for them and how we could support them. So the first thing you're going to see that's going to be offered to all grade levels in the 26-27 school year is called the Success Lab. I'm going to get into a little bit of more details, but think of this as a time management, executive functioning, study skills support course for all of our students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. A lot of things that we also heard is students having wanting some support navigating our online platforms like Schoology and Google Suites, but also like navigating life online. As you can tell, we're all online tonight. We're all on Zoom, and how are we supporting those skills? So all of our students will be have offered the opportunity for life online as our second course tonight that I'll go into more detail about in a little bit. And then the last thing is going to be called Change Makers. I was really into the naming. It was very important to me that we have some exciting names for our specials. And where Change Makers is really going to be is talking about, service learning. How am I, leaving the middle school, and how do I fit as a global citizen? How can I make an impact? What is my role? What careers or opportunities may I have in the future? So that if you notice in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, for our 6th graders, every single student is going to get all of those course offerings. And that was really important to us because a lot of our philosophy that we came up with over the last 2 years is that we want students to be exposed to a lot, but we also want them to have choice. So 6th grade, developmentally appropriate, let's get them exposed to a lot. 7th grade, there might be a little bit more choice if you're joining an ensembles program. And then 8th grade, no matter what, if you're ensembles or not in ensembles, you have some type of choice when you come into the 8th grade year. Next slide, please. For 27-28, we're going to continue to do what we did. We're going to listen to our students. We're going to listen to our families. We're going to, review a lot of our standards and what could be some important courses that we could bring in the 27-28 school year. This is going to be a 3-year plan. We want to see how the Success Lab and Life Online goes. Is there a part 2 to that course, or is there other things that might come up as we do a lot of more listening and as we dive more deeply into our standards? And then for 28-29, who knows? I would like to see a lot could change in that time, but we hope to bring another 2 courses in the 28-29 school year to round out these opportunities for our students and to give them more choice. Excuse me. Next slide, please. So to dive a little bit deeper into these 3 courses, the Success Lab, Life Online, and Change Makers. I want to go, the name is only so much. I want to go into a little bit more detail. What we heard a lot from students and families, and very, very typical for our middle school years, developmentally appropriate, that some students really struggle or have difficulty in organizing themselves. It could be paper, it could be digitally, time management. So we're really hoping that this Success Lab, which we're going to offer to everyone next year, but will really live mainly as a 6th grade course, will be something that we can really help the transition for our students as they come from elementary school and become middle school learners. We really heard it loud and clear. Kids, said it in that equity action audit was that they would like some more help in managing themselves and managing school. And we think this will really strengthen students' independence and their self-management skills. So that is what we're hoping to support in this transition.
I just want to add there, Mrs. Brady, that I think that the 2 key words that I look at in that executive functioning, we hear a lot about that in the middle school. And I think we make these assumptions that kids come in knowing all of that, and they really need explicit teaching with what's expected of them. So I think that honing in on some of that and really kind of talking about and teaching what it means to be a middle school student, to be a student in general, and then applying those skills. So hitting that hard in 6th grade. And then, as you mentioned, another key word for me is transitions, because I think transition 5 to 6, transition 8 to 9 are things we can really, really focus on.
And Dr. Bangano reminded me of something like this. What we're really hoping is as we, continue to develop this course, is that these skills that they're going to be directly taught in this course, you're going to see those disseminated throughout the school. They're going to be reinforced by their core content teachers. So it's not just a one-off course. It's something that's going to be embedded into their practice that they could use during their core curriculum. Next one is life online. I think anyone who has had a middle schooler knows that social media, online, cell phones, computers are something that is a big push and pull. We there's has a lot of power and a lot of amazing tools. We want to really set our students up for success by explicitly teaching and addressing what's appropriate online communication. How can you use this responsibly? And really importantly is keeping our students safe. Keeping our students safe online. We're able to protect them in multiple different ways, but what happens when those protections are taken away when they leave the building? So using real world scenarios, different types of projects, building habits for these students that will support them as they transition and become more independent with this technology that they're given, but also that they can take into the real world and make really safe decisions and informed decisions as they navigate the online universe. And last but certainly not least is our change makers. As we did a lot of listening, we kept hearing over again, there's certain things that the middle school's done, and service was something that came up over and over and over again. We also talked about career and work readiness. We also talked about, students, seeing themselves as change makers, as students that can make an impact no matter what their age is. And as we kept, listening to these things, developing a course that could really empower our older students in seventh and eighth grade, that they feel like they can start to engage in service learning projects, that they have some choice and autonomy around. A lot of the times that we've done service projects at the middle level that have been school-wide has been kind of not necessarily coming from student inspiration. So we're hoping that this course will really encourage that civic responsibility, but also support, career awareness, global citizenship, and them seeing themselves as change makers in our community.
I think the other part I want to draw out, Mrs. Brady, is our conversation that these are portfolio-based courses, yes, and that each of these courses really works to collect evidence for our students, not only on their own growing capacity and competence in those components of the profile of a graduate, but also to be used as part of our collection of data and evidence towards career education and work standards. So students become sort of through a focused course, can start to develop a sense of who they are between sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and then have the opportunity when they exit in eighth grade to reflect on those artifacts and really have a way to do that in cumulative time, not sort of just all of a sudden. So I just wanted to add that in because we didn't necessarily capture that in the slides, but it crosses all three courses.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Mangano, handing it back off to you. I told you guys to remember about ensembles. We're coming back.
Okay, circling back to ensembles. So we want to make sure that the integrity of our program is very important to us. So one other distinct difference that we are putting into play for next year is sixth grade. We're going to kind of continue what happens at the K-5 level. So if you think about K-5 and it's elementary, sixth grade still being a little bit elementary, although they're in our building, it is considered elementary. We're going to continue that so that their ensemble will take place outside of the school day. Now, I think if we could have every single thing we wanted occur in our day, we absolutely would. But we also want to make sure, if you remember, Mrs. Brady mentioned, we want to be able to offer every single sixth grade student that opportunity to try and experiment with every single special we offer. So that's important so that they get a sampling of everything we have, so that by the time they hit seventh and eighth grade, they can start to specialize, and really kind of hone in on where their passion lies. So seventh and eighth grade ensembles will take place during the specials rotation during the school day, which is very typical at a secondary model, sets them up that for success as they head into high school. So that is another, that will be happening next year. Next slide, please. So again, I guess we're back at this just takes us right back to where we were in the beginning, just as a reminder in terms of we will be back. Oh, yet again for another presentation. I know we're getting really good at this and you guys are loving us. So we're happy to come. We will be back in March with our curriculum guide. We want to fine tune what's in there now. We did a lot of work last year with Dr. Johnson's assistance and support. We want to come back and make that, even better this year with these new courses. And then again, get very excited for some parent outreach and student outreach for scheduling come April. Next slide. And yes, we're at the end.
Dr. Aberly, you're up.
So I have a couple of questions. I'll start with one of the later slides first. So is there any impact in terms of teaching availability, workload, and transportation on changing the ensemble setup so it's outside of the typical school day?
For 6th grade?
Yeah.
Because that's the only impact. There shouldn't be. I mean, we have the ability to have access to busing after school, and 6th grade is the only grade that doesn't have sports at that level. So we're not technically competing. We're going to have to be very careful and diligent the way we schedule and plan around the play, which is also after school, but we do that now. And I think, we know our people better than anybody. So we're just going to be really mindful because a lot of those kids will a lot of the kids tend to do both. So we just have to be cautious and careful with that.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. And my second question relates to the new specials program, which I think is really well thought out, completely relevant. And I had one question really kind of thinking about the tech component, right? So, your life online. There's probably a decent amount of inequity in terms of access to different, some kids have phones, some kids have smartphones, some kids have no phones. The kind of even access to, the internet at home can be patchy. How are we thinking about managing some of those aspects as part of this? Because that can be a big blocker for some kids, in terms of access to, a digital kind of platform, or, how do they get access to that type of thing?
Well, I think one thing we know we can utilize that we have provided all students is that Chromebook. So if we have a device and a tool, I think using that as the original platform, and we use that here as a tool, not to replace instruction, certainly, and to replace good teaching, but how, and that even of and of itself, how our students, do they know how to get to Schoology? Do they know how to set up all of the, sometimes even setting up a presentation? So I think sometimes for us as adults, we look at life online strictly being cell phone related and social media. I still think we can educate kids about social media, even if they don't have access to a phone. I would guess, and it's something we could probably explore with our kids. We can simply look at who has and who does not have, and then that way we can sort of tailor some of those courses and those units around that. But I think we're going to have a lot in and out of the gate, even with the Chromebook and even with the technology we offer, just by what we're having kids do and what they tend to try to go on in terms of game sites and this and that. I think we have a lot of material to start with, but certainly work in progress, and being sure we're being good listeners to our audience and our customers who are our kids.
And Dr. Mangano, I just want to add into that real quickly is that one of the other pieces or components that I think is important is we had a digital citizenship course. That course used to live in the 6th grade. When we did some reorganization and we wanted to get to more of that social studies content, we pulled back that course because having it as a year-long special didn't resonate for our kids. So we're going to go back into that common sense media and helping kids be good consumers of anything that they're viewing online, which could be television or commercials. There's lots of ways in which students can be good digital citizens. And so I think it's examining that the issues of 6th grade are not the issues of 8th grade. Not the same. And 6th grade, fall 6th grade and spring 6th grade, also not the same. So one of the things about all of these courses is depending on when you take it and when you're rostered, what will be relevant will shift through the course of the year. And so we've spoken with the teachers who will be teaching these courses about the need to be dynamic in terms of shared understanding, but also recognizing that what we talk about in the fall and what we talk about in the spring is going to feel different. Does that make sense? I lost her. Where'd she go? Lee, did I lose you?
What you said does make sense, though.
Thanks, Eileen. Oh, there she is.
I
Dr.
don't know
Adderley,
what
does that
happened.
make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And one of the things that I've seen that we actually do where I work is kind of like tabletop exercises where if you want to teach a subject like, how to be cyber secure, like, okay, so let's make some good choices, or if we make a bad choice, what is the consequence? And so I know that there's probably like plenty of materials both online as well as physical things, but those types of like real case scenarios, and like I say, we do at work because people fail phishing attempts even where I work repeatedly. And so those types of training materials are actually like, I can see they'd be super helpful for like in the student setting as well.
100%. KD.
Hi, thank you.
Of course.
Would you please go back to the final table that shows the man? Now you're going to ask me which
That one?
Nope.
The table of the courses?
Yes, please.
That one?
Yes, please. Okay.
Or for back for 26, 27.
I guess 26, 27, in fact. Okay. First of all, thank you so much for all this work, and it sounds like you did a lot of talking to students about what they wanted, which I think is awesome. I have a couple of questions. What happened to sixth grade health, and what is that eliminated? What content was there, and how are kids going to learn that now?
So one of the things we're working on with the health and PE department, Mrs. Brady and Dr. Mangano, if you don't mind, I'll take a turn. Because we've now added K-5 health, we're trying to figure out sort of what we have to make some choices. And so in the what I'm going to call the old days, prior to elementary health, sixth grade health was the first time kids hit that information. So there was a lot of focus on body systems and understanding puberty because it was the first direct intentional course students had taken in health. They now do that work as some of those early concepts in third, fourth, and fifth grade. And so they will have already sort of been through and had those discussions coming into the sixth grade. And one of our conversations was, the greatest complaint we hear is not about their ability to manage health information in the sixth grade, but instead the opportunity to have enough physical breaks in their day to physically move. That as they've come out of an elementary school where there was a scheduled recess every day, and that doesn't exist at the middle level, how could we really think about physical activity as something we want them to access regularly in the sixth grade? And so that's where we ended up with a double PE offering in sixth grade, moving health. And so they would have had a long-term K-5 health, sixth grade, no health, and then bringing health back for seventh and eighth grade. And then they take it again in 10th.
Okay. Second question is, okay, so in this 26, 27 year, is the idea, am I reading this, that every single student 6 to 8 is going to take Success Lab, or every single student has the option to take?
So the best way to read this would be in sixth grade. All of the things in the sixth grade column, students will take. No choice available in sixth grade.
Okay.
In seventh grade, there could be a little bit of choice depending or not if you're in an ensemble. That's where that choice is coming. And then in eighth grade, whether you are or are not in an ensemble, you would have choice in one of the 9 options, or in 8 of the 9 options.
Okay, because if you're in an ensemble in seventh grade, the choice is basically like a negative choice, like you wouldn't take one of them. Okay. All right. I think I see.
But to be clear, because I don't want that to be any misperception, students are going to have the opportunity.
I didn't mean that in a negative way. Just like,
no, I know. I just want to make sure
works.
Our conversation is to have students rank the interests that they have. So there may be some of those courses that become required, like they must take PE, or they must take seventh grade health, but perhaps Introduction to World Language, Success Lab, or Life Online could be something that you could take in seventh or eighth. So we just have to work on the sequencing once these are all approved and we work through the scheduling process, much like they would choose electives at the high school, but by the time they finish at the middle school, they will have needed to take so many, I'm going to say credits, but that's not what I mean, like points towards a particular subject area. Dr. Mangano, Mrs. Brady, did I try to capture that?
Perfectly.
Katie, does that make sense?
Yes. And then I guess a third question is, And I don't know what the history is. Maybe you can tell me in the middle school, but has there been a history of uh, electives like family consumer science, tech ed, computer skills? I guess more traditional electives. Is that something that you considered, or that maybe you don't have staffing for, or the kids weren't interested in?
The only one we don't offer is the family and consumer science, but tech is our STEM class.
Tech STEM. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I will offer the feedback that I'm concerned about losing health in sixth grade. I totally agree about they need more physical activity, 100%. And I just feel a little, yeah, I think that's something to think about as kids are literally entering puberty in sixth grade. But I understand, I totally understand what the
I'd actually push back that we have students entering puberty as early as third grade. And so actually the smallest number of children are sort of only beginning that process as sixth graders.
Okay.
I think one of the other things I would just add to that, if it's okay, is that another way that we are also trying to integrate, like just because we might not offer like a specific health class, I think there are things that we come up with that hit us that go, oh my gosh, we want to make sure we tackle this with all of sixth grade. So there's other avenues for us to do that, whether it's at WIN or advisory. So there's plenty of opportunity. It's not like they won't ever hear about a health topic. So I agree with you. I don't want to lose sight of what a kid needs, but the focus is way more prevalent in seventh and eighth, and the focus for sixth becomes more about physical movement because watching them every day in the lunchroom is like, it's just a lot. So I think
100%.
I think there's ways we can integrate what we need to without having it be a standalone course. That's the only other thing I would add. So
thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yes.
Okay.
My hope is that this is agreeable to the committee for us to continue to move forward, and then for the middle school to memorialize these offerings in their program of studies that they'll bring back for full approval next time.
I'm fine with it.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Mrs. Bell.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Great job, middle school team. Thanks again for being with us. You are, of course, welcome to stay and hang out for the remainder of the content. But if you find that you have other things to do this afternoon, we understand. Guys, have a great day. Thank you. And certainly not to be outdone are my friends at the high school. Dr. Ritt, Dr. Scragen are here to join me to talk about offerings at the secondary high school level. Gentlemen, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let me know when you're ready for me to advance.
Thank you. We're going to speak about our program of studies, which is our curriculum guide, and our, just that process, and then also changes to some courses and additional courses. Our program of studies defines academic pathways, graduation requirements, student opportunities, including our district mission, equity, and the profile of a graduate. Our classes focus on rigor, engagement, and real-world relevance. We have coursework at all levels, and you'll hear about this from Dr. Z and myself, and certainly you'll have access to the document, dual enrollment, virtual high school, Eastern Centers for Arts and Technology programs. Next slide. Dr. Z, please.
So can everybody hear me okay? Okay, so some of the highlights, instead of going through all 63 pages online tonight, which is actually shorter than it was last year. Last year was like 75 pages. Just some of the highlights I'd like to point out. First of all, in the course of study, all of the NCAA clearinghouse courses have been highlighted for students. We heard back from our students during an advisory period that they really utilize that. So they would like to know more about that. So we highlighted every single one. We're looking at information that's most relevant to scheduling the program. So we pulled things out that really was not relevant. And then anything that was rather repetitious that could be found in the student handbook or maybe handouts in the guidance suite, we pulled those out as well. So the main focus of tonight is to really kind of talk about the increase in access to the different electives that we have, both half credit courses and full credit courses in all of 9th through 12th grade. One of the things that's in the program of studies you'll see is that there are now courses in many different departments, not just one, but many different departments that are running different years. So we want students to be able to start in 8th grade as they plan their 4 years in high school, trying to figure out which courses should I take this coming year because they'll be offered and they won't be offered the year after that. So that's been highlighted in every department with creative graying shades, so you can see that. And then I want to point out that there's a new program for our Eastern Center for Arts and Technology. It's a construction careers and management program. That's a 2-year program. So that's in the course of studies or program of studies at the very end. And we got that information directly from Eastern.
I'm just going to remind members of our Board of School Directors who might not be aware that Eastern is a collective school that serves the Eastern Montgomery County school districts, and Eastern delivers their programming to our students in 11th and 12th grade.
Here's just some of the highlights, some to wet your whistle. Language arts, our ELA 1 course, which is for freshmen, will be going down from a full year to 1 semester. Journalism will be offered in 2 different courses, one for 9th and 10th grade, and then one for 11th and 12th grade. Same thing with public speaking. That was a discussion because students who are 17 and 18 years old write about different things than students who are, 15 and 16 years old, as well as things they might want to talk about. Math, our algebra course, Algebra 2 with financial applications, is going to meet the personal finance requirement by the state. It's going to replace pretty much integrated and business math. We have a new course called Foundation of Engineering, which is in the math department, run by Kate Whitaker, who's our computer science individual, a new elective that we talked about last month. Our 3D design course has changed. We basically chopped that in 2 and then rewrote another course called 3D Design Engineering, which is a new elective. Each of those are for half credit. And then in science, there's a new core class, which is called Material Science, that any student after biology can take that course. And then a new elective is Forensic Science, which again, that's we talked about that last month, and that is a new elective, and those were courses that the board approved last month. And then social studies, which we talked about last month, is that psychology is being divided into kind of like an A and a B sequence, that students take psychology 1. They could also go on to take AP Psych after that, or if they wanted AP psychology 1, they could go into psychology 2. And then a new course we'd like to talk about tonight is contemporary affairs for the 12th grade. So contemporary affairs pretty much replaced our global studies course that we had for all 12th graders. As our sequences changed, when world history used to be taught here and went to civics now in US 1 and US 2, we found that during that sequential change, we had to offer many electives for students to kind of pick up some of those credits. So contemporary affairs will be a half credit core course required for all students to examine current global issues through political, economic, social, and strategic lenses. We want them to utilize their critical thinking skills to analyze different perspectives and, of course, current events that are happening before our eyes. The idea is to take it as a 12th grader because that will strengthen their civic reasoning and understanding of the U.S.'s role in the world, on the world stage, and then, of course, prepare students to make responsible choices. Part of our profile of a graduate is become a global citizen. So we want them to be able to meet that. And it will be a required course that all seniors next year will take. And then for their second half credit, they could take a number of electives that we currently offer, or they could sign up for AP Government, which is a full year course, or every other day course for the full year, and then take the AP exam after that. Continuing with some more highlights, our visual arts department has taken photography 1 and 2. That'll be down to half credits versus full credit courses. And there's some changes in our music and performing arts. One, which we discussed last month that the board approved, was the introduction to the performing arts. That's a smattering of all of the different arts that we offer in the performing arts department, 9 through 12th. There's a slight change in the discussion of what Guitar Lab 1 will cover, and Guitar 2 will also cover. Broadway and Psalm, which was really a course for mostly 8th grade students. We had the 8th grade here many years ago, finding that it just has not had the signups. I think last year we had 2 students who were interested out of 780. We're not going to be running that next year. And then keyboarding 1 and keyboarding 2 Keyboarding 1 is currently on the books, and Keyboarding 2 was approved last month for, well, we talked about it last month. We didn't approve it. We talked about it. We said it was coming soon. And so we'd like to talk about that tonight. And it's basically for individuals who have already taken Keyboarding 1 and to move along with the sequence of their piano technique, their music literacy, and of course, performance skills. The idea is that students are going to be increasing their learning through improvisation, their composition, and creative expressions, as well as the idea of reinforcing those independent practices of playing. This will be open for students who've already taken the first keyboarding, but also students who might have private practice or private lessons outside of school. We want to make sure that they're included in that. And then the whole idea is to really kind of highlight the roles that the arts play in communication, problem solving, and cultural understanding, which those of us that play instruments probably realize that there's a lot more to performances than just the music.
You're on a roll. Keep
Okay,
going,
I'm on a
Dr.
roll.
Z.
I guess it's
I'm here for support.
So we'd like to explain the next steps for our board members is that I will be printing, not me personally, but I will have printed the program of studies for all of our 8th grade students so that when we go over to the 8th grade assembly in March, we will have a copy for every 8th grade student, a hard copy. I know that Dr. Johnson will have an interactive copy and we'll also have a PDF online for everybody else to look through. And then, of course, we will be notifying our students here at the high school and at the 8th grade as we have our assembly down there to talk about how to schedule. But here at the high school, we will emphasize new courses utilizing our television screens, our morning announcements, and then, of course, we will have class meetings where we'll do the same thing, highlight the new courses, and hopefully have the instructors who will be teaching these courses to come in to talk about and to drum up business. We find that was very successful when we started doing that about 2 years ago. Then during the scheduling process, all students from 8th grade through 11th grade will meet one-on-one with their counselor to talk about the courses they'd like to take. And we will share with them in the meetings how to rank their selections for elective courses so that they don't all put the same number down, because if you put ones down, it has a hard time trying to figure out which one you really want. But if you go 1 through 12, it's the same issue. So we'll have to talk about how students can rank those electives and get the electives that they really want. And then, of course, as always with our communication through our weekly e-blast or s'mores, we'll put out information out to parents. And of course, everybody's invited. Please come to Curriculum Night, which is scheduled for March 12th, 2026, which is next month. We will talk more about our curriculum, have our department coordinators there and teachers there as well to talk about the different curriculum we offer.
All of that is pending approval from all of you that the curriculum guide is approved and we are able to move forward with those final courses. So I want to take any questions or comments any of you might have.
Sorry, Eileen.
Oh, no, I just have a question, and some of it is because I never had my kids never played instruments, so I don't know how any of that stuff works. But I was just wondering, like I assume when you're part of like orchestra and ensemble that the school provides instruments, and I just wondered for things like the keyboarding too, is there a requirement for kids to actually have access to that at home so that they can say practice and do stuff outside of class?
No, it is not. We actually provide the guitars for our guitar lab. See that 5 times fast, and also keyboards for our keyboarding courses. So students have access, even if they don't have access outside of the home, they'll have access here.
Thank you.
Eileen, just to be clear, because I wouldn't want the public to misunderstand. For students who are participating in orchestra or band, there is a rental that the families can do, and those who need financial assistance to do so, we can support them in that. But there is an agreement between the vendor. We have a vendor, Zazwitz Music, who you've seen before at our music celebrations every year. But those are privately financed or supported outside of the school program, except for Guitar Lab and keyboarding, and then sort of instruments as a part of the music class that everyone's using.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
My question
questions?
was sort of similar. I know this is keyboarding too, but for keyboarding one, is that primarily students who are already studying piano or who aren't, and this is their entree?
No, it's really,
Keyboarding one?
that's
Oh,
so
sorry,
cool
Dr.
about it is, yeah, you get to high school, you decide you want to learn to play the piano, that's the class for you.
That's so
It's a good
awesome.
question. Yeah, it's a really
So
great
Yeah,
question.
you don't have to have any experience either knowing how to read music or playing music. You just would like to learn. That's the other thing. We have one of our courses called Instruments of Rock, which deals mostly with percussion instruments. It's the same idea. If you've never played before, it's okay. You want to learn. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and you can hear the progress. So that a lot of the kids, we have the furniture, in the main lobby right outside my office, and you can just hear the kids progress. Like you can actually hear the song. Like they're playing one song Monday, and then by Friday, it's cool because they spill out into the hallways, which we love. To kind of get out of the room and play with each other out in the hallways and stuff like that. So it's really the progress in particularly introductory keyboard and introductory guitar classes. It's pretty amazing. So.
Any other questions or concerns from a member of the board about our proposed high school program of studies for the upcoming year?
No, I don't have any questions. But just because this is a topic that we discussed in a transition meeting this afternoon with myself, just can we be clear around curriculum night and what the content of curriculum night will be for both general ed students as well as students in the special education setting? When we advertise it, it would be nice just to understand what options there are available to different cohorts. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Aberley. That's
Thank
great
you.
feedback.
That's good input. Thank you. Yeah, great feedback. Thank you.
So with your approval, we'll approve both of those two new courses that we talked about, and we begin to post and publish our updated curriculum guide. Excellent job,
Thank you.
high school team, and on behalf of your teachers. I know there is a lot that's it takes a lot to get that done. It doesn't seem like it should take a lot, but every year it's a heavy lift. So thank you very much for getting that done and having it prepared.
Thanks for everybody in the lab, particularly our students. So we appreciate your presence.
Yeah, and the feedback, I think we are hopeful that we continue to respond to student feedback.
Yeah.
On how to make it most useful.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, while of course you're welcome to join us, I also understand that there's other things happening in your lives. So if you would like to excuse yourself, now's your chance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great evening.
We're going to segue into certainly what you all have been waiting for this evening, presentation on some information in our comprehensive plan. This is it might feel like a little bit out of sequence. Pennsylvania is required to do comprehensive planning every 3 years. Those of you who've been around for 2 years recall, didn't we just do this 2 years ago? We did. The state has had a hiccup in their timelines because they made some changes. So we had to turn in a plan from 24 to 26, and now we're writing the 26 to 29 plan. The overall comprehensive plan, which is the biggest and most robust piece, we're actually going to present to the public at the public board meeting on the 17th. So that's the biggest, most robust section that really analyzes the component parts of the comprehensive plan. Tonight, what Dr. Dennis and I are sharing with you are the we were required to post publicly 3 smaller reports as a part of this process: the gifted support plan, the induction plan, and the professional learning plan. While they are at different levels connected, most so for the professional learning plan and a little bit less so for the gifted plan and the induction plan, they are related. We thought it was helpful to break these up because there's just a lot of information. And so we're going to try to be focused and succinct, but I did send you links and they are available and they will be in the notes. Links to the actual plan of what I'm submitting to the state, which will get posted for public review for 30 days. But also tonight, we're going to share with you the highlights just about what it means here and tried to put it in a more user-friendly version than the state report might necessarily put it. And with that, I am going to start with Dr. Dennis so that she can also be on her way afterwards. Dr. Dennis, all you.
Great, thank you. It's good to see everybody. So as Dr. Johnston shared, part of the comprehensive plan is a small section on our gifted support plan. And essentially what we're required to provide as part of the comprehensive plan is our assurances so that we're meeting all of the criteria of PA school code around identifying students for gifted, our evaluation process for gifted, and how we implement services for gifted students. So you'll see on the slide on the left side, there's some core components that are part of those gifted assurances. And the first of that being comprehensive child find practices. So we are required to ensure that families not only that come to Springfield Township schools, but who live in Springfield Township's catchment area, understand that they have the ability to seek assessment in these areas. So our first area of assurance is in that child find practice. We follow a similar practice just like we do for our students receiving special education services. There's an annual notice that goes out in support in conjunction with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. We also post that public notice on our website. So it's in the special education and student services section of our website for parents to go and understand how to access support if they felt their child who might be attending at a private school needed to be evaluated for gifted services. And so all that information is there. And then part of that comprehensive child find practice is just our type of screening. So making sure that we're looking at students across the continuum of our district to ensure that we're capturing students that should be part of our gifted programming. So we screen students in first grade and we screen all students in third grade. So we're looking to make sure we're not missing anybody and that all students who potentially are eligible for those gifted services, that we're looking at them specifically to see if they need to move forward with an evaluation. The second assurance of that is making sure that we use multiple data points, that we're not using one measure to determine whether or not a student should be screened or evaluated for gifted services. So our screening process involves multiple data points. We do a screener called the COGAT. There's different ones out there. Right now we're using the COGAT that really looks at perceptions and reasoning skills of kids. So that's one tool that we use as part of our screening. We also look at teacher recommendations and we look at our benchmark data like Lincoln information, STAR information, or I'm sorry, MClass, moving to the MClass. I'm still in last year's screening data, but looking at that screening data for comprehension, math skills to determine some screening to move students forward to that multidisciplinary evaluation. When students move to the evaluation process, that has multiple data points as well. We're looking at all that information that we just talked about in the screening, and we're looking at some additional standardized measures. There's some cognitive assessments, some standardized academic assessments that go along with that. And our school psychologists are really looking at the full picture of the student to make a determination for eligibility for gifted services. If they are eligible, that moves to our next assurance, which is that we're providing direct gifted services to our eligible students. So we have gifted teachers available across our schools that are providing all sorts of services. So that can look like pull-out support, it can look like push-in support, and it can also look like consultation with our general education teachers on enrichment and extensions for our students who need those supports through a gifted education plan. And then the last thing that's really part of that core component is just access to really rigorous core instruction. So we work closely with all of our building principals as well as Dr. Johnston and curriculum around that core instruction piece. Our gifted teachers are involved in that core instruction piece so that they can provide meaningful enrichment that really has a basis in the standards for our students. And then, of course, as you're moving through middle school and high school, there's some additional opportunities for the types of courses you take and your ability for things like dual enrollment, et cetera. So there's lots of opportunities for students to get access to some really good, rigorous instruction in their areas of strength. So those are the assurances that we provide as part of our comprehensive plan. And then I just included in here, one of the things that they do talk about in the assurances is like professional development and our support of our gifted teachers. So really looking at that through that future planning model. So our gifted teachers really are working with our local intermediate unit through Montgomery County. They're a part of their gifted groups. I believe all of them are attending our regional day on the MCIU's Gifted Regional Day this year. So it's a great opportunity for PD and to network with other gifted teachers across the county. So we support, them attending and being members of that program. In addition, they do come to us with some additional conferences. So next year we have some plans to send them to some additional Pennsylvania-based conferences for gifted instruction. And so we're making sure that they continue their professional development to really make sure they're providing those individualized needs for our students in the gifted program. And then they also have those opportunities to be part of professional development here in the district around, writing documents, things like that, but also our core instruction. So when new programs come in, like CKLA did not too long ago, making sure our gifted teachers have access to that type of training as well, so that they can be connected to what's happening in the core classroom and make those meaningful extension and enrichment programs for students. And then we're really just lastly on that future piece is just growing our middle school program. So with the change in master schedule, we've been working really closely with Dr. Mangano on just what that looks like and how we can expand those services for students there with a little bit more flexibility in our day. Any questions about the gifted? Do you want me to take questions now, Dr. Johnston, or wait until we're done?
So that way I can excuse you.
Sure.
Anybody have questions for Dr. Dennis on the gifted support plan?
Nope.
Thanks, Mr. Brett. All right. Thanks, Dr. Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Not to be outdone is what I think was one of the key and best parts of my job, which is onboarding our new faculty. And so the induction plan is something that we have really taken seriously as a part of our belief to mitigate the teacher shortage by creating a robust support and onboarding system for every new professional faculty member who joins us. And so some of this has been in place for a couple of years. This just memorializes how we're delivering this and in what ways. But we know that it's really important to make, we're obligated under the Commonwealth's guidelines to provide this program. We had a 2-year program long before it was required by Pennsylvania. And so even as we were beginning to think about, maybe we won't have 2 years anymore, Pennsylvania came along and said, no, it's best practice to do 2 years. So 2 years it stayed, and then we just enriched it. And this really helps make sure that we build people that not only can support the students, but that they feel supported, that they feel like they belong, and that they are connected to our community. And so we do offer a 2-year program. It has a variety of components, including orientation to the district. Some districts allow new staff members who have completed induction in another school district to waive participation. We are not such a district. We require all new professional faculty members to join us for these 2 years because we believe it's really important to build those connections. We provide non-evaluative mentoring and instructional coaching, which we'll talk about in a second. And we build reflection and growth over the 2-year process. And so we really want to make sure that people who join us know what we expect in terms of that instructional framework. We want them to sort of live and breathe and understand our commitment to equity is more than just a statement, that in fact it requires instructional practice, decisions, and focus that meets learners where they are. We want them to build relationships with their colleagues and navigate our systems and expectations independently and effectively. And so year 1's really around awareness and foundations, and year 2's around application. So as they come on board, they're getting to know everyone, they understand the expectations, they know who to ask for what. And then in that second year, we take that learning and apply it much more readily into their individual context. So they are really then looking at instructional practice and the way in which they can see the range and variations of students who come into their classroom and plan for that and for their success. And ultimately, the key component from our perspective is recognizing that no session is going to do it all, but building collegial support that's non-evaluative and safe is really important. We do that through 2 ways. One is using our mentors, where we're identifying and compensating internal faculty members to serve as sort of the, I'm going to call them the resource broker. They're not expected to know everything, but they're helping to be like almost the cruise director. Oh, this is what's coming up. Here's the person to talk to. Oh, you want to learn about this? Here's your person. But that they can be the point of contact in the landing space for new faculty. And then our instructional coaches are on board, and they provide Bi-weekly support in year 1 meeting, and they really other duties as assigned. What does that teacher need in that time and space? And then they provide that service or support. Sometimes that's being a listening ear. Sometimes it's working on parent communication or digging into the curricular resource. Each person comes with a different set of tools in any given year that they might need. So it's really personalized to that individual new teacher. And then in year 2, they engage in 2 full coaching cycles for instructional personnel and an action research project for non-instructional personnel. So for those folks who are have more unique roles. And then the teachers really get to, and the professionals get to situate those goals sort of within them. What do they want to accomplish during that year of support from that coach? And how does that frame out their priorities? And ultimately, we gather feedback throughout the year from all layers of the organization in order to design, refine, and reframe our instructional priorities in that induction program. Questions for me about induction? Eileen.
Just a quick question, and I'm sorry if you said it. Is this just for teachers? Like, does this cover administrative people too, where they get mentors and hand-holding stuff? I meant that in a good way. I meant that in a good way. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question. We have an onboarding support and a mentor that we've put in place for administrative personnel. Dr. Mangano was our most recent administrative hire, I think. And when I think about her, we assigned her a mentor as soon as she got here, same with Dr. Dennis and Dr. Lutz and Mrs. Schrage when they came on board. And so we're planning the same for the new assistant principal to the middle school and the high school principal. They don't necessarily participate in this induction program, but they definitely have a support and onboarding, and then are given that sort of, we meet them where they are, but to make sure that they have a safe person who can help them navigate our systems. Great question.
Thank you.
The state plan doesn't require me to identify supports for administrators, just for teachers, professionals. PD.
Really interesting to think about, understanding the values of the district as part of that program. And it made me wonder, how do you think about measuring the success of your program, given that, like, it seems like retention of those new teachers would be an obvious indicator, but maybe not everyone is a good fit. So how do you think about that?
Retention is how we measure,
Okay.
along with quality feedback, and then sort of ongoing support and using that data feedback about like how are they doing, and then problem solving in real time. I think the greatest issue is we often have LTS staff who long-term substitutes who don't actually have positions to remain with us, and their sadness about having to leave us is usually also the other indicator.
That's a great indicator.
So though, to me, there's the qualitative components, but we do believe, and the research would suggest, retention and the fact that we don't have any difficulty filling professional positions in the school district, I think tells us everything we need to know that we're a destination location for people.
Nice.
Thanks for asking. All right, I have one more. Professional development. This is the third component that I have to submit. And this plan is designed to take the ideas from the comprehensive plan, which I know we haven't talked about yet. So this is a little funky, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then talk about, like, okay, so if this is what we want the district to achieve, what do the faculty and staff need us to focus on to develop their skills in order to help them meet where we're going? So when I thought about how to present this to you, I thought, well, it'd be really important for me to share at least the highlights of the comprehensive plan with you, which I'll do in the next slide. Ultimately, this is also how we meet our Act 48 requirements. Act 48 is the continuing education requirements professional faculty, certificated faculty in Pennsylvania need to have in order to continue their role. And again, as you know, we're sort of committing to that, maintaining and retaining staff, and the way we do that is grow their professional skills. So the comprehensive plan was a robust opportunity for me to really dig in and align not only information for this plan, but to take things we already had, like our strategic plan and our equity action plan that we already put into place, and to really pull that together with some additional data collection and analysis, including interviews with all of you and students and families, including survey and focus group feedback. We'll talk a lot about that next week, exactly what we did and what we found out. But let me leave it with you as the spoiler alert that the two things that came up that we needed to really focus ourselves on our priorities is to strengthen standards-aligned instructional progressions in literacy and math, which we'll talk about in a second, and strengthen consistency and clarity of instructional expectations, learning expectations, and communication. So what does that mean? when we talk about strengthening standards aligned instructional progressions, one of the things that came up is we have dips in performance at the 3rd grade reading level and the 7th grade math level. That's not about 7th grade math teachers or 3rd grade reading teachers. Instead, it's the progressions of K1 and 2 getting to 3rd grade, and then the progressions in mathematics of 4th, 5th, 6th, and hitting 7th grade. And in both of those spaces, important things happen that lead to sort of success later after those grades. So in 3rd grade reading, you are really making that shift from learning to read to reading to learn. And that requires more effective strategies to decode and a fluent approach to reading in order to have solid comprehension skills. Likewise, at the mathematics level, through 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, you're moving away from the need to represent all ideas in a concrete way, and instead move to that as more abstract things you can't touch, particularly pre-algebra. And so one of the things we need to take a look at and what came out of the surveys and the focus groups was, while we're doing a lot of wonderful things, we could tighten up the progressions and make sure that we've backed into what's getting in the way, and specifically what can we tighten or address. And one of the things our faculty and staff have shared is there's not an external document that tells you what you're going to do to get to each of these milestones. So our hope is to really look at the priority standards and back into what are the success criteria across K1, 2, and 3, or 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then what does that build to at the high school level? And then ultimately using student work to talk about what is mastery. How do we know beyond a PSSA exam, how do we know how students are doing towards these key diagnostic items? And so we want to build that out over the next 3 years. Our second priority, I think I talked with some of you about in our interviews, was that families and students and staff all talked about the range and variation of individual approaches when it comes to communication and homework in particular. And that so you can have different experiences amongst your teachers in terms of how much communication you're going to get. Is it every day? Is it every week? Is it every month? When will you get it? What will it be about versus, and how much homework? Is this a teacher who gives a lot of homework or a teacher who gives a little bit of homework? And that range and variation is really hard for families and kids. And that the first trimester of the year, the first marking period of the year, is a lot of learning of like what routines we need to meet this teacher's expectation, but that there's not commonality in terms of predictable expectations, but then it's also not building year to year. It sort of feels a little more disconnected. And so we want to tighten that up. And particularly this is most evident in the 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8, 9 transitions. And so we're going to take a look at really trying to begin to think about what are we expecting? Does it build in ways that make sense? And how can we be more intentional in order to help families and kids experience the greatest and smoothest transitions possible? And so just to be clear about this, these things that on top of each other, right? These are just tightened areas that we're focusing on both the strategic plan an equity action plan, where we've talked about professional development and where we've talked about student achievement. This is really focusing that student achievement to 2 key areas, but it's also continuing to build out for our faculty and staff all those other areas that we believe are really important too, that work in profile of a graduate, the idea of our instructional framework, our common ground framework, really understanding how we're providing culturally appropriate and aligned instructional approaches, and then all the other learning mandates that we have in place from the Commonwealth. This is also sort of articulates our Act 48 requirements and making sure that we have lots of access for our teachers to meet their 180 hours of required learning in that 5-year period. And so one of the things that's newer for us, and as I have the click, I'm going to put it in the chat for you all, is that we created this year for the first time our learning map, where we're creating a 13-month plan for our faculty and staff of what's expected throughout the year. So it's not a surprise, that we are really clear and upfront with our faculty on what we're prioritizing and what they can expect to learn through that given year. Additionally, we have lots of other ways in which we support professional learning for our faculty, workshops, PLCs, collaboration across and within grades, our instructional coaches, our supervision models. And then we have a really robust, and I've spoken with some of you about this before, Flex program, which is asynchronous and self-directed learning. Teachers currently have 33 hours. Professional staff need 33 hours of self-directed learning throughout the course of the year in chunks. And so we really have continued to refine this through this framework for teaching and learning, really putting our beliefs in writing so that everyone knows what we're trying to achieve and that we want those environments for all of our students. Questions? Comments? Excellent. Nothing? All right. So with your okay, those 3 plans will get publicly posted for the 28-day required review period, after which they would get submitted to the state. They don't require a signature from the board, but they do require your approval to post, and then they need to be posted publicly.
I'm good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Oh, right. I had that written down. I forgot.
Can I just ask, was that your that your creation, the expression professional destination?
Which one are you looking at?
No, you had an expression. You said you want us to Springfield
to
to
be
be
a
a professional
destination?
destination. I just wondered if you coined that or someone else did.
I don't
That's
know. It's
really
probably
good.
an evolution of lots of things that people say, but we want to be a destination. Absolutely. We know we are from interview process. People are trying to come here, which is great. At a time when other people are struggling to find highly qualified faculty, we're in a really great space, and that's attributed to our community, to our families, to our students, to our board, to our administration, and our teaching staff, for sure. All right. Any other questions or comments coming from any of you about anything we've talked about tonight? It's been a busy night. I know I had a lot for you. These next couple meetings are always tough. Normally, we would open it up to public comment, but at this point, there's no one from the public participating in our conversation. I appreciate everyone's support and your questions. Our next get together, of course, is on March 9th, 2026, also a virtual meeting at 4 o'clock. In that session, the middle school will bring forward their program of studies or their curriculum guide, as well as the elementary schools will bring forward their curriculum guide for your review. The algebra and math team will bring their recommendation for a resource along with their course overviews for both algebra and geometry. I'm looking at my list on the wall. I think that's the big highlights. Oh, and then the administrators will be here to give you an update on their mid-year action plans that we talked about in the fall and sort of their focus for their buildings for this year. So you'll get that update. Katie,
Thank
are
you.
you still? Oh, sure. Katie, are you okay to read the minutes at the board meeting?
Certainly.
All right. Unless there's anything else, that's all I have for this evening. All right.
Thank you.
Okay to adjourn at 5:13 p.m.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate all of you being here and hanging in there. Thanks so much.
Thanks.